Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly, Tailgates, and the Edge of Philly Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, the Flyers have crashed to the end of the season, missed the playoffs. They embarrassed themselves last night, giving up 9 goals. Yes, 9 goals. The Phillies are stumbling out of the gate, although they did win today. They're 6-6. 500 ball. It is what it is. Hitting season can't come soon enough, though, pal. And how about the Sixers? They've now won 6 in a row. We'll talk about the return of Joel Embiid and that impact. Fletcher Cox made his retirement official yesterday from the Eagles. We had WrestleMania, took over Philly last week, and I know that excited you a lot. And then we had women's NCAA final basketball, took over the network rankings, outscoring the men in the TV ratings. As always, there's plenty to talk about in Philly sports.
Yeah, congrats to Dawn Staley and her South Carolina women completing undefeated season. So glad Joel Embiid is back, man. The Sixers look pretty good right now. Yeah, they're reeling me back in for sure. The Phillies continue to frustrate us all. You know, they've won 2 straight series, but it just doesn't feel like they're there quite yet. The pitching is okay. The hitting, not so good. And Bill, the Flyers, well, what a friggin' collapse. What a mess that is.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we'll talk some about that. I definitely have some opinions about that. I'll be glad to share with you, I'm sure. But hey, we have a great guest tonight making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGINNIS.
Are you kidding me? I always have to do my Tom McGINNIS impression every time we have him on. I just can't help myself. Hey, by the way, in a span of 4 days over the past week, we had some crazy stuff happen, Bill. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake hit New Jersey last Friday. Then on Monday, we had the solar eclipse. And later that same day, maybe most surprising of all, Johan Rojas got 3 hits in a ball game.
Yeah. And you know, when you think about it, Chet, what was the most surprising of all that?
It might be that last one. All once-in-a-generation events, perhaps.
Yeah, what about it? Kind of crazy. Well, hey, let's open up with some Flyers talk. Man, I'm dumping the full blame here on John Tortorella, Chet. That benching of Sean Couturier backfired. We talked about it when it happened. They've won 2 games since then. They've been non-competitive the rest of the way. They've lost 8 in a row. You know, people are saying, well, they just don't have the talent down the stretch. I'm not buying that. They had the talent for the first 70 games. They played toe-to-toe with every team in the league for 70 games, and they just fell apart. And it seems like that, pushing that button in Couturier, the timing is unique.
Yeah, that may have had something to do with it for sure. I mean, it's just really hard to understand how drastically a team could turn around like that. They were beating good teams, including the Lightning and the Bruins, you know, right before it all kind of went to crap. And now they have lost a bunch in a row, including several to bad teams. And not just lost, they've gotten crushed in most of those games. So much of that goalie controversy I alluded to last week, Bill, when we had Bill Meltzer on, because right now, Urson and Fedotov, there we go. They both stink. They stink on ice right now, Bill. So just get this season over with. And as Torts said the other night, they need to get some of their dignity back. Well, I don't know if they're going to do that. Our buddy Sam Carchidi tweeted last night that it looked clearly to him like they have quit on the coach.
Yeah, and that's what I say. And it was just 2 weeks ago. We were here, you know, we talked to Bill Meltzer last week. We said, hey, just a week ago, we were saying we were going to know a lot about this team. Well, here we are 1 more week later. They haven't won since. And like you said, 9 goals, Chet. I mean, that's almost impossible in the NHL.
I turned it on and it was 1-0, and I saw the second goal, made it 2-0. Then it was like minutes later, and it was like 7-1 or something like that. What the hell?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they scored that goal in it, and it was over. It was 4-0 and done. And yeah, it's really kind of interesting to me. What happens for a team to go from being highly competitive. We saw it with the Eagles. I mean, all of a sudden you're highly competitive, and the next time you can't do anything.
And a lot of people are drawing comparisons to what happened to the Eagles last fall after the 10-1 start. I think the difference is the expectations. The expectations were so high for the Eagles. Even though they weren't always playing their best football, we knew they were a very good team. They had been to the Super Bowl the previous year. And so we thought that they would be, very competitive and, make another deep playoff run. But then they just couldn't do anything right in December and early January. And here, the Flyers, it's the same situation, but to an even greater extent, where they were playing pretty good hockey, and then all of a sudden, they just look dreadful the last 7 games or whatever.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about it. Hey, Chet, I'm going to try to. We got somebody spamming our page here. I'm going to try to delete these comments. Clown. Joel Embiid fan page is not a Joel Embiid fan page, I don't think. But we got rid of those too. Hopefully, they don't come back. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see. Tortorella, to me, he's got to go. He's got to go. And I think when we sat here a couple of weeks ago, we're thinking this guy's coach of the year, a candidate for coach of the year for this team making the playoffs that no one thought. And now he's got to go.
Yeah, you may be right. And that's been the thing that has followed him around his entire long coaching career. He seems to wear thin on players after a couple of years. But, I mean, it was going so well until literally, a few weeks ago. They were exceeding everyone's expectations. They were in pretty good position to make the playoffs. And right now they're on the outside looking in, and barring a minor miracle over the next week and a half, they're not going to get in, and certainly don't deserve to be in the way they've played recently.
Yeah, they have no chance of getting in at this point. And you're right. They don't deserve it. And, PJ and I do a lot of texting back and forth during the Flyers games, and it wasn't long ago, and we were saying this team can, if they make the playoffs, they can go in a series and play with anybody, whether it be the Rangers, the Bruins, or anybody else, and compete. And here we are just saying, and now they can't beat anybody, and certainly they couldn't take care of their own business. They were getting a lot of help from other teams for a while.
They were,
but then they couldn't take care of their own self. And then all of a sudden, those other teams started winning some games, and down you go. Awful.
Not sure they could beat their Lehigh Valley Phantoms right now the way the Flyers have been playing.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing with Tortorella is he seems to be the kind of guy that likes to throw out the blame, and it's never pointed at himself. And that there's certainly many ways to try to motivate your players. I never thought that was a good one. But he seems to do it all the time. And again, maybe that's why he doesn't keep jobs that long.
Yeah. It's a shame because, it was such a fun season for a while. They pulled me in. I was watching more Flyers games than usual. Now they're very, very difficult to watch, Bill. You know that.
Oh, absolutely. You can't do it. You can't watch a team score 9 goals against you and you're not playing hard. And I think that was the other thing that we said all along. Even when they weren't winning, they were playing hard every night, and they were competing. They were coming back each night, and they always seemed like they had a chance. Well, nah, not no more.
Oh, well, next year.
All right. Hey, let's talk about the Phillies. They are what they are right now. They're a 500 club. I think we've heard this song before, Chet. How long are we going to wait for hitting season?
It seems like every year, we talk about it. Well, it's important to get off to a fast start. Well, they're 6-6, and they have some winnable games right now. And Bill, it's not just Johan Rojas who people are, eyeing. look at the averages after today's game. Yeah, Brandon Marsh is the only guy who's hitting. He's hitting 333. But Schwarber's down to 208 again. Turner with another 0 for 3 strikeouts. Harper, other than that 3 home run game, has not done much at all this year. He was just 0 for the series. 0 for the series out in St. Louis, Bill. Alec Boehm up and down. Castellano did get the big RBI today, but he's still hitting just 163. And Stott is not, hitting like we thought he would. He's not even seeing as many pitches. And if you look down the bottom of there, Bill, 13 strikeouts. 13 strikeouts again today against Lance Lynn and their bullpen. The big talk over the winter was, they got to start working on not chasing as much, be more diligent at the plate. Well, they're again, I think, up in the leaders in strikeouts, 13 today, as I said. And I just don't get it. The good news is they're 6-6. They're 2 games out of first place, and there's 150 games to go. But it's frustrating to watch them sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And I actually enjoyed it. I like to. You think I like to bash Kyle Schwarber, but before this week, he was hitting line drives and getting base hits, and you got to like that. Well, then he turns around and. He came to training camp, spring training, saying his objective was to hit the ball where it's pitched and not be trying to yank everything out of the ballpark. It looked pretty good for a couple of weeks, but here we are now. The average is dropping like a rock. I think he has 1 home run, maybe
1 or 2. Might be 2 now.
Yeah, he hit that line drive out the other night to open the game. But yeah, I mean, he's one that's got to get going. You can't be hitting, we say this, you can't be hitting 200 at the top of the lineup. But with that said, hitting season will come around, I think, as, the pitchers are a little bit ahead of the hitters at this point. It didn't used to be that way, but now that there's the short pitching leash, the 5-inning leash, basically the bullpen guys are all in midseason form because they're only throwing 1 inning at a time. So the hitters are actually behind the pitchers, and I think that's going to catch up.
The starting pitching has been very, very good. I mean, Zach Wheeler, the poor guy, doesn't have a win yet. He's got a 1.89 ERA, and they can't score runs for him. I think they've scored, 4 runs for him in his 3 starts. Yeah. Nola gutted one out today in a damp, dingy, rainy St. Louis. Went 6 solid innings, only had 3 strikeouts, but the Phillies did at least score enough for him to get the win. So Nola's got a couple of victories this season. The bullpen's been up and down. I'm okay with the bullpen. I mean, give them time. They have not been bad at all. So, yeah, the pitching's not the problem. It's the guys just not hitting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be, the other night, Chet, I was losing my mind when I saw the lineup again against the lefty, and there was no Stott and there was no Marsh. Yeah. Heck, you might as well sit Harper too if you're going to do that. It makes me nuts when those left-handers are not playing against left-handers. They're your best players. Put them on the field.
Marsh deserves to be in there now. Marsh is hitting really well. So, make him the everyday player, please. Stott's got to get it going, though. We know that, whether against lefties or righties. We know he's better than what we're seeing from him. How about JT in the lineup today after taking one in the throat last night? He's a gamer. We always knew that. So that was good to see. And he went out and got a couple of hits today, too. And hit one pretty hard to center field that was an error that the Phillies got an early run on. So, yeah, JT is okay.
Yeah, JT has actually probably been the most solid player that they've had consistently. Yeah. Marsh he had a 3-hit game, and with this little amount of at-bats, those 3 hits jumped the average real high up quickly. But JT's been pretty consistent right out of the chute, and that'd be good because, he kind of had a little bit of a down year last year. He finished good, but it'd be good to see him have a real good year too.
Absolutely, it would. The Pirates are in town the next 4 days. Pirates have the best record in the National League. They started off well last year, too. We know they're not that good, but they do have some pitching. They got some good young talent. They're 9-3. And I just heard on the radio today, their third baseman is the son of Charlie Hayes. I did not know that.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That? And I think you only bring that up because you're going to get the broom out for Denny Malloy.
We hope
later in the week when the Phils sweep the Braves out. And since Denny's here with his Go Buccos comment already, Sorry, pal, not this time around.
I don't know. We thought that, the last couple of years, and the Pirates have played the Phillies pretty well. And like I said, they're off to a good start. So I'm not going to wager any money on this one, man.
Jane's thinking it must be her. She must be the winning farm. Yeah. What do you think?
She moved. Jane, if they lose, it's all on you.
Hey, we got the boo from Malloy. All right, we'll come back to talk some more Phillies. Hey, let's give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge of Philly Sports Network this week, Chet. As always, the gang has all the bases covered. You can catch all the action on www.eopsports.com, as well as Edge of Philly Sports on YouTube. You can also find our show on the Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel. Please help us out. Hit those subscribe, follow, and like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. You got a graphic for me tonight?
Well, I had one in there and it disappeared, so I had to re-put it in there, and there it is. Look at all those shows. Look at all those shows.
We're adding shows, as you see, Sunday PM in the AM. That's a new show that we've got. We've got lacrosse. We've got, I think, soccer still on there, the Union, right? We got a lot of hockey talk, baseball talk, Sixers talk. We got it all on there. So,
and we got a new morning show coming our way. I think it starts on the 22nd. So that's something different.
PM, that's the PM in the AM, right?
Is that what that is? I don't know the name, but it's Phil Stifle. Is that his name?
I think it is. Yep.
I hear good things. Good things about Phil.
Me too. Hey, don't forget, subscribe to the Edge of Philly Sports Weekly newsletter. Sign up for free. You'll receive the EOP weekly review in your email every Friday morning of all the shows for the week. You can go back, check them all out in one place.
Yeah.
Hey, tell us what's going on at the Irish Rover Station House this week.
Well, Bill, the Irish Rover has terrific Thursday through Sunday dinner specials. In fact, I'm going to put those up right now. Look at that. You got the scallops as an appetizer, filet Oscar, Rover chicken and broccoli, the entrees. Always good menu items there at the Rover. They have some new additions to the menu, by the way. And this Saturday night is Crown Night, Crown Royal specials. This and every Saturday in April, by the way. That is something new. And, well, you know this. The Irish Rover has Quizzo and prime rib dinners every Wednesday evening. They have live music on Saturdays and always 24 beers on tap. Great bunch of bartenders and servers at the Rover. The Irish Rover Station House, if you haven't been there, it's a great place. Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check out the website, IrishRoverStationHouse.com. And, Bill, you know this. Coming up at the very end of this month, we are celebrating a very special anniversary. And with that in mind, a lot of people are giving us little greetings. So
shout out to Bill and Chet, 10 years. Congratulations, man. That's incredible. That's really awesome.
Hi, this is Angelo Cataldi. I can't believe it's 10 years. When I first heard that Phillies Pressbox Radio was coming out with Chet and Bill, first thing I thought is that thing won't last a week. 2 at the most. 10 years. Guys, congratulations on a tremendous run. And I hope you can match mine. 33 years. You got 23 to go. Great job, guys. I know I've enjoyed talking to you. Keep it up.
Really cool.
How good was that, huh?
Very cool. Very cool. Hey, 23 years, Chet. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I don't know. But, hey, we didn't think it would last 5, certainly. And here we are coming up on number 10. So, yeah, never know, Bill.
Well, we've always said to each other for years that, we're survivors at this because we really enjoy doing it. And we haven't really had even a conversation about shutting this thing down.
We never have. Not really, huh?
Yeah. So, hey, and we appreciate the people that join us, and we couldn't do it without them. We just, want to spend our Wednesday at 7:00 listening to me and you babble is kind of fun.
Well, thank God we're making millions of dollars doing this.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Oh, geez. Hey, Chet, let's move on. The official end for the Eagles, Fletcher Cox, came yesterday when he officially announced his retirement. He's going to be missed, and he's going to leave a big hole in that ball club, and not only by his play, but by his leadership, probably as much as anything.
Yeah, I mean, his official retirement announcement wasn't anything quite like Jason Kelsey's, where there was, so much media attention, but he did speak for a good 20 minutes, probably the most he's ever spoken at one time to the media while he was in Philadelphia. But he's one of those rare guys like Kelsey who played his whole career in Philadelphia and, certainly had a pretty good career, made a few Pro Bowls. He will be going into the Eagles Hall of Fame. We know that. And they asked him about the possibility of maybe going into Canton someday. And he said he has thought about it. I don't know where he stands in that scheme of things, but he will be considered, I'm sure. I don't know if he's quite there, but he had a very solid, long career with the Birds.
Yeah. I think he's got some pretty serious credentials to put up there. But man, as a defensive lineman, it's awful tough to get in because there's a lot of good ones. Aaron Donald is just now retiring. JJ Watt. I mean, there's guys that are current guys that are going to also go in that maybe one day. I'm certainly not thinking he's a first ballot guy like Kelsey's going to be or should be. But hey, for Fletcher Cox, he's given us a heck of a run, and he brought us the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So all the best to Fletcher and whatever you have on your schedule. He said he's a rancher, so not a farmer, but a rancher. So he'll be spending lots of time on his ranch. We know that. And he'll be missed. I mean, the Eagles have some holes to fill on offense and defense now. In addition to on the field, leaders like Kelsey and Fletcher Cox.
Huge. Those two things are huge. And Chet, I wanted to say, I didn't go back and check this, but I believe with the retirement of Kelsey and Cox, we now have only 3 players that were playing when we did our first Philly Pressbox radio show: Brandon Graham, Sean Couturier, and the one I'm not sure about is Lane Johnson. I think Lane might have been there. Sean Couturier was a rookie. Brandon Graham, there was Kelsey, Cox, Graham, I think Johnson, and all the coaches are gone. All the players are gone, except for those few now.
Yeah, we got to check on Lane. So April 30th, 2014 was our first show. So coming up on 10 years. And yeah, a lot of faces have changed, except ours, Bill. We still look as young and handsome as ever.
And I'm thinking it was probably a little bit harder to play center and defensive tackle than it is for me and you to show up every Wednesday for an hour.
Just a bit.
What do you think? But hey, man. Fletcher Cox definitely going to be missed, and great run, and hey, forever a champion in Philadelphia. You got to like that.
The other news regarding the Eagles today, of course, and I know you have some thoughts about this also. The opening game, that first Friday in September in Brazil, will be against not the Cleveland Browns, but the Green Bay Packers. Bill, you're excited about that.
Well, I wasn't excited about any of it to start with. I'm certainly not excited that it's now a conference game. It's on a Friday night. It's a home game for the Eagles. They lose a home game. I don't like anything about it. I really don't. And I don't know how the ins and outs of all this, of who gets paid, how they decide who goes there, to these foreign countries. I guess it's a money thing, or else these organizations would want to opt out of it. But I don't think this is a good thing for the Eagles right from the start.
All right. I have mixed emotions about it. I think it's a great matchup, and I think that's what the NFL thinks. I think they're looking for ratings. The Packers and Eagles would draw better ratings than the Eagles and Browns or the Eagles and Carolina Panthers. You're not going to play a division opponent. We knew that. So it was going to be either one of the AFC teams on the schedule or an out-of-division opponent like the Packers or Panthers or whoever else they have. NFL chose the Packers. I think it's going to be a good game. Now, keep in mind, the Eagles still have 8 true home games and 8 road games. It's just that 9th home game this year is in Brazil. So I see where you're coming from, but hey, win the game and then there's no problem and you're off to a 1-0 start and people are saying, hey, the Eagles are for real.
Yeah, or they lose and they're 0-1 and lost a home game. But to your point about the viewership and all that kind of stuff, if they were so interested in it, why is the game on Peacock, where everybody's going to have to pay for it if they're not in the Philadelphia? The Philadelphia area will be covered, but somebody else will cover it. But you would think if you're going to put on this showcase, you put it on Fox or CBS or NBC, one of them, as Friday night special football. Everybody in the world can watch. Brazil is a cool place. Nope. We're going to make you pay for it.
Well, because all the streamers want money too. They want their cut. So yeah, Peacock, paid the NFL for this deal, and they want ratings. NFL wants to give them ratings, just like Amazon will have a game or two, or not. Well, they have the Thursday night game. Last year, Amazon had the wild card game, correct? Now that's going to be on Peacock or vice versa. I don't know,
Right.
But yeah, there's going to be an occasional streaming game that people are going to bitch and moan about, but the streamers making money. The NFL is getting viewers in a different way. So I don't know. Yeah, of course it's a money thing. It's always a money thing, Bill. We know that.
Yeah, it's just frustrating to me. We talked about this last week, the business part of the professional sports, and it seems to be, especially the NFL, it's just out of hand.
I understand. At least we have the Sixers, Bill, huh?
We do have the Sixers. We have somebody that's actually winning, and who'd have thought it was going to be the Sixers? They've made an incredible turnaround. They won 6 in a row. Joel Embiid is back. Tyrese Maxey is back. They're back in the 7th spot with a chance to pick up a few more spots. I know you're happy that your boy Embiid is back. You were texting me all kinds of beast stuff again last night.
I sent one text that said he's a beast. All right, yeah, they will likely be
ran out of stat sheet about that long on him. Sorry.
They will likely be the 7th seed entering the play-in tourney, but they still can get up to 6th. I think the key is they got to beat Orlando Friday night, because that's one of the teams right above them, and of course win their finale Sunday against the Nets. But I think if they beat the Magic, they have the same record, and the Sixers have the tiebreaker against them, all things considered. So we shall see, but you got to win these final 2 games to even have a shot. I think they have a shot at the postseason, and I think they can beat pretty much anybody in the East, except maybe the Celtics. The Celtics would be very, very tough. But having this guy back in the lineup certainly makes it all possible, at least. He has come back from that injury in pretty good shape. He apparently did work hard at getting in shape. So other than being a little winded the first 2 games back, he has looked really, really good. Scored 37 points in 36 minutes, as I texted you last night. So I like our chances, and there's a pretty deep bench right now as well.
Yeah, well, Joe puts up a good question, Chet. Can they get out of the first round if they can make the playoffs?
Yeah.
How do you see that playing? I mean, I guess the thing is Embiid really going to be good to go when it comes playoff times, when you got to go every other night, or the schedule will fall basically every other night.
I think he's
able to go. Is he going to be good to go?
I'm putting these standings up, and there you see the Sixers with 45 wins and the 3 teams above them all with 46. But like I said, one of them is the Magic. So we don't know who they're going to play. If they get the 7th seed, they would play the 2 seed, which right now would be Glenn Doc Rivers Bucks. And boy, wouldn't that be fun. But that could still change. The Bucks could still drop to 3rd because, the Knicks have been playing a little better of late again. So maybe it would be the Sixers and Knicks. It could be just about anybody above them. But first, you would have to play that 1-game playoff, presumably against the Heat, presumably in Philadelphia. So, yeah, once you get to the true first round, though, I think they can beat the Bucks or the Cavs or the Magic or the Knicks or whoever it is who ends up in the 2nd or perhaps 3rd spot and had to play the Sixers. So, yeah, I think they can match up with anybody in that true first round.
Well, I'm going to say I think there's no chance. I don't see them. I think they'll win. They can win the play-in game. Right. I don't think they're beating the Bucks, unless Maxey to me is the key. Obviously, Embiid has to play, but
of course, yeah.
and Embiid's going to play well. But if they don't get support, if Maxey doesn't play well, if he's injured, whatever's been ailing him, because he's been in and out of the lineup as well. They got to have him. They got to have everybody. Yeah. And I'm not sure even with everybody, they have a chance. I'm just not on board. They've done nothing all season after the first 25 games to show us anything.
They've just won 6 in a row, Bill.
Well, they have, but
So there's that.
yeah, but that wasn't against the Bucks.
No, and the Bucks right now have Giannis with a calf strain, so he's not going to be full strength. He may sit out the last few games of the regular season, and then you come to the playoffs. We don't know if he's going to be 100%. He had a little problem last year, and that's why they lost to the Heat. So, anything can happen.
I maybe I need to correct myself and go back to what you said. This team is coached by Glenn Rivers, and he could lose any series, as we've seen multiple times. So. Yeah, maybe I'll have to rethink that next week. We'll see how the final standings end up.
Perhaps you wonder what Tom McGinnis thinks about all
do.
that.
You had a chance to sit down with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, to talk the end of the season, the playoff possibilities, and where they've been. So tell us what's going on.
Well, like me, he's pretty excited about the postseason prospects of the Sixers, the team that he, calls their games every single night. So here is our chat from just a few hours ago, Bill. And let me do it again. Get excited, Sixers fans. Great to talk to this guy once again on Philly Pressbox Radio. It's been way too long. You know him as the radio voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis. Hey, Tom, how are you?
All right, Chet. Thanks for having me.
Tom, another big win for the 76ers last night. That is 6 straight. It seems like they're getting hot just at the right time with the playoffs underway next week, right?
Well, for sure. And obviously getting Embiid back. And for that matter, really getting almost completely healthy. The only guy that's out right now is Robert Covington. In that they got DeAnthony Melton back in the lineup last night. He looked pretty good. So, yeah, for sure. It's been a good run. It was a difficult 2 months without Joel, and now that he's back and getting into game shape, and everybody's getting used to playing with him again, it's a good time. For the Sixers, obviously, in the nick of time, you'd always like to have more time, but it would be really big if they could avoid the play-in and have even more time. By that I mean next week, being able to practice and rest and get ready for round one.
Yeah, getting Embiid back is huge, of course. We know how talented he is, but are you surprised at the fact that he seems to be in pretty good shape already after 2 months off, and the fact that he's fitting in also with a few guys that he had never played with before?
Well, not at, the in shape part, because he's been rehabbing for this entire time. I'm sure he had to stay off his knee at the beginning of after his procedure. But obviously it means a lot, he's definitely trying to take this team where it hasn't gone before. They've been over 500 for the last 7 years and been in the playoffs. But, if you have championship aspirations, you got to go farther than the second round, obviously. So, no, and the other guys, it's been built, in terms of to have spacing and shooting around Joel. And that's what they've done, and it does take a little time for chemistry. I think even last night, for instance, Cameron Payne started and Maxey and Lowry didn't. And I don't know that Payne had been in a lot of those actions early in the game. You kind of noticed there was, they needed to get together a little bit more. So everybody's adjusting for sure, because he's the center of the offensive universe. But that's what creates opportunities, right? Two people guard him and somebody's open, and you got to find open shooters. And then obviously you got to knock down shots to make it all pay off.
Kelly Oubre Jr. has really picked it up recently. We know what Embiid and Tyrese Maxey can bring to the table every night, but can Oubre keep this up into the postseason?
For sure. He's had a great year. He started off great, got injured, had a bit of a dip, took him a little bit while, but he's come back and he's been a terrific player for sure. He's got an explosive first step. As Coach Nurse has said, nobody can really stop him from getting in front of him. And for Kelly Oubre, it's how he finishes and reading those actions right at the basket, whether he passes it, scores it, drives it. But, he's been a terrific player, very aggressive, made some clutch threes last week in the win in Miami, had some big-time plays down the stretch with Tyrese to help the Sixers beat the Heat. But he would certainly be an X factor. I think somebody was asking me last night, I think Matt Murphy on the postgame for the radio, and who is an X factor? I think it's Oubre, but it's always Tobias Harris. You get 16, 18, 20 points from Tobias Harris in these playoff games, with everything else being even, and that could be a real key for the Sixers, provided Maxey and Embiid give you what you'd expect from two All-Stars.
Well, we need to talk about Tyrese Maxey. He just keeps getting better and better and better. How much more upside do you think he has?
I think he's got a lot. I believe he's only 23 years old, and he's never been in this position before where he's been the point guard. This is the first year, and he's an insatiable worker. And with that athletic ability and the character and everything that he brings to the table, and as everybody's seen, like with the speed and then the ability to, create off the dribble, that sweeping step back, move where he ends up shooting the long threes. He's creating 4 or 5 feet of space, which is, I don't know that, we've seen Curry do that to a little extent, but he's not as fast as Maxey. So he's got players get better. You put in the work like he does, players develop and get better. He's seen so much over this last year. That's going to really help his learning curve. And by that, I mean all the defenses have thrown at him, because all of a sudden he became the top, thing that defenses had to scheme against from terms of opponents. So, he's got the heart of a champion. That game the other night in San Antonio, he proved that was amazing, to have 52 points and have had 3 games with 50 or more. Like, the sky's the limit. He's got a lot more to give, I think.
I know you're a Nick Nurse fan, Tom. I don't know if you're willing to say it, but I will. He's a better coach than Doc Rivers. Your thoughts?
Well, I was a big fan of Doc Rivers. I get close to these guys. I'm with them a lot, and it turns out by default, I've studied coaches all my career. And I just finished a book on Lute Olson. I do. I love biographies. I read everything, all kinds of books, but I definitely read basketball books. And I am a big fan, like watching him from afar over the years. He was such a good coach for Toronto against the Sixers. And he's got it all. There's so much attention to detail. When you're an NBA head coach, you're running a huge machine with all the staff. You're the leader. You're on the road. You're the leader. And he's the leader of the program. I get it that Daryl runs the entire organization, Daryl Morey, along with Elton Brand. But like coach, he works with the medical people. But I mean, like running the staff, running the team. And he's got everything. He has like soup to nuts in terms of X's and O's. He's seen so much. There's a lot of skill sets that that a coach has to have in terms of getting the players to play hard. Like people say guys don't need to be motivated. Yes, they do. Like I get it, they're pro players, but yes, they do. They're people. And he's a tactician. He's like a basketball savant. He's been brilliant.
How much fun would it be to see the Sixers play the Bucks in the postseason?
Well, like the way Milwaukee, they had a big win last night over Orlando, but looks like Giannis might be out for a week at least with this calf injury. And it's that old drill. Like, you can't really project who you want to play, because that almost never comes true. And that's certainly with the possibility of a play-in, it's hard to say, but would you rather play Milwaukee or Boston? I think everybody would pick Milwaukee right now. And, the whole Doc Rivers part of it is just, that's part of it, but that's not. So, Milwaukee's teetered a little bit down the stretch here. I think that more than anything would be the reason you'd want to play the Bucks. And the Sixers, if they play at the apex of their game, I think they can beat Milwaukee. And I'm not saying they can't beat Boston, because eventually if you're going to get to where you want to go, you're more than likely going to have to play Boston. But first things first, and getting in. And, just like any other coach would say, at this point, you want to be healthy and good spirit and organized and playing the best that you can play. And if you're that, and, if you're the Sixers, you consider how they started the season. They had, one of the best records. They beat Boston, you'll take it. You'll take it, whether it's Milwaukee or whomever it turns out to be. But I think what would be really good is, and Coach Nurse intimated this a little bit last night, speaking of like DeAnthony Melton, but I think you could say that about the greater whole. Not that you get to practice a lot in the playoffs, but you definitely get to go. And the more, if you get a playoff run, now you're talking weeks of being together where, you can make some adjustments and you can work on things the whole time, and your team is going to get better as a result. And it would give the group more time to be together the longer they're able to stay alive in the playoffs.
Well, as I show the standings, the Sixers right now are in the 7th spot, but they could get up to 5th or 6th. They could fall to 8th. Beating Orlando Friday night, of course, would be huge. So how do you see this playing out? Does it matter? I know if you're in the play-in, you'd much rather be in the 7th spot than the 8th spot because you got the home game, right?
For sure. I mean, the way things are right now, let's just say the Sixers went up, but everybody else takes care of business. That's kind of how you have to presume it to happen. There was definitely some scoreboard watching last night. When we left the arena, all of a sudden that Miami-Atlanta game goes to overtime, and you're like, oh. And it turned out to be a double overtime game, and Miami still won. So that was interesting. But if the Sixers, you definitely want a home game. But it's the danger zone. Like the Sixers, you knew eventually the Sixers would be in this scenario. You just didn't know it would be this year. And they're obviously in this position because Joel Embiid got hurt for 29 games and was out. But, it's a scary proposition. What if somebody turns their ankle, or what if somebody from the opponent makes 8 threes, or, you never know where it's, from the 7th or 8th spot, it's actually 2 games. But still, that's a wild scenario. And then if you happen to lose the first game and play whatever it is, Chicago or Atlanta, and the prize is you beat Boston in the first round. So that right there is kind of why you'd want to, avoid it. It's fairly obvious. And the Sixers have played well against Orlando, and they've played well against Cleveland. Indiana, they beat them, and then they lost to them in the in-season tournament and lost to them once out there. But again, I think if the Sixers are healthy and whole and playing well, then it's a whole different ballgame. Then it goes back to sort of how it was earlier in the season. And they've got a lot of experience. When you look at Lowry and Batum and Tobias and Joel, and Maxi's been through it now. This would be his 4th playoff. So, and then Nurse and everybody we've talked about. Melton's got experience, and on like that. So, the Orlando game is huge, but you got to win them all. Like the Sixers have to finish on an 8-game winning streak and see what happens.
Yeah, one challenge for Nick Nurse will be the rotation. With DeAnthony Melton back, as you said, Harris missed a few games. He's back. Maxey and Embiid should both be very healthy going in. How's he going to juggle the rotation? Because normally you only play 8 or 9 guys. He's got
right.
A deep bench right now.
No doubt, good problem to have, right? You saw Buddy Hield find the stroke a little bit last night, making 4 threes. But one thing I've noticed, when you go to that game in San Antonio, like Nick Nurse, he will go with what he thinks is going to be beneficial. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whether it's sitting somebody and bringing in Ricky Council IV or KJ Martin, those guys will probably in the playoffs be more situational. Martin brings you, a variety defensively. But you definitely tighten up your rotations a little bit because it's every other day. You're not playing back-to-backs. You're able to play, rest, recover, adjust, and play again. But that's, it's a benefit to having Cameron Payne, having, Batum and Paul Reed. And if Bamba's needed, the shooting is the big thing. And I think you're talking about rotations. You got a lot of guys that can make shots in Oubre, and if Tobias gets it going, and Maxey and Kyle and Cameron Payne and Buddy Hield, that's how the Sixers are going to win. You get the 14, 15 threes in a playoff game with Embiid clicking at 30 points a game. That's a pretty good formula.
All right, it's going to be fun. Last thing, Tom, how often have you rung the bell before a Sixers game, and is that as much fun as it looks?
Well, it's great recognition. Typically, I'm, shall we say, Chet, plugging a hole.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The one time I did it, this is so ironic, and it was dumb luck sort of, but it was something like, it was like, not that you keep track, but I went back, and it turned out it was the 1776th broadcast that I'd ever done. Like, how ironic is that, for the 76ers? But it's a neat tradition that the Sixers have done pregame, and it's obviously nice to be recognized by the fans and whatever and thought of to be able to do that. So it's fun to see who gets to do it on a nightly basis. It created a nice tradition and a good send-off for how the Sixers introduced the ball club prior to the game.
And by the way, congratulations on last year receiving the Bill Campbell Broadcast Excellence Award, or whatever they call it at the Sports Writers Association. Well deserved, Tom.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Chet.
Hey, that was fun. And you and Tom could have a long conversation because you two are pretty fired up thinking you're going to get the same results.
Hey, there's no guarantee. We know that. But it's certainly a lot more fun to watch the Sixers when Joel Embiid is back in the lineup and playing healthy, than when they're going with Paul Reed and Mo Bamba and whoever, and Embiid's somewhere rehabbing, which is too often the case, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully not, and hopefully they can make a run to get to the dance and see what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, they really are fun to watch right now. Embiid doing his thing, and Buddy Hield got hot last night, as Tom mentioned, the big comeback the other night against San Antonio without Embiid because he needed a little load management. So, yeah. Hey, you can't do back-to-backs. Unfortunately, he won't have any of those in the postseason.
You got it. Well, hey, Chet, what's going on with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia? Bob Cavanaugh and the gang of Cavs Philly tailgates.
Well, they're always busy at Cavs. As I find the graphic to put up, Cavs Philly Tailgates has been cooking up terrific catering business for more than 30 years. You know them for their tailgate parties. Cavs also is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cav also does corporate events and parties. You name it. There's Cav right there. The Kenny Chesney concert is next. That's at the link in early June. You can order your tickets for that and other upcoming events via the website, phillytailgates.com. Check the site, and if you have any questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. Cav works also with Vince at Philly Sports Trips. They're the folks to use for Eagles road games and more. Check out the schedule there. They have a lot going on. Just got back from that first Nashville trip, but they have other ones on the schedule, including the London baseball trip in June. There are Phillies trips to Boston, to Baltimore, to Chicago, to Pittsburgh. And yes, that game in Brazil in early September. The Eagles and Green Bay Packers now is the game. They will get you there and give you a good time the whole week long. So that is phillysportstrips.com. How about that, Bill?
How about it? Hey, we had a great, yeah.
Before we talk about next week, before I forget, I just remembered I wanted to mention this. You remember a few weeks ago, was it just 2 weeks ago or was it last week? I don't know. It was a week or two ago. 2 weeks ago, we had the author of this book, Backyards to Ballparks, on. His name, Eric Gray. Great book. I read more of it. I'm almost done the entire thing, and it's a struggle for me to read because I can't stay focused. But this is a great one, and I happened to meet Eric in person and hang out with him and another friend of ours, Matt Goldberg, this past Sunday at an event in Villanova. So there's me. That's the author in the middle, Eric, and Matt Goldberg, who wrote Rings of Kindness. We had him on a couple of times in the past, and he wrote that book. So, yeah, be sure to check out this book. If you like great baseball stories, Backyards to Ballparks. All right? Eric
Amazon, right?
The author. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon and elsewhere.
And he has a website.
He does, and a YouTube channel too. So Eric C. Gray, the name. Find him on YouTube and or Facebook. But I have another thing too. Speaking of books, we had this guy just about 2 months ago, Brad Hebner, talking about Pennsylvania's basketball tradition, high school basketball primarily, and he wrote the book Titles for Our Town. Well, as it turns out, Brad Hebner is going to be doing a book signing in the Allentown area, Quakertown, Solderton, that whole area. It's at the Promenade in Center Valley, PA. He'll be selling and signing his book Titles for Our Town, and that's this coming Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m., as you can see right there. Get the book, get a signature, say hello to Brad. It's all about Pennsylvania's rich basketball history, and a lot of athletes from the great Lehigh Valley, Fountain Hill, Bethlehem, Allentown, etc. So Brad Hebner, a book signing this Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. at the Barnes & Noble in Central Valley. There you go.
Very good. Good luck to Brad. Hopefully he gets a big turnout and sells a ton of books. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, Chet, great guest tonight at Tom McGINNIS. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next week?
Well, happy to report, Bill, that next week we will have a return visit from a legend, a true legend. In fact, we saw him briefly earlier in this show. He is the retired WIP morning show host and a just announced 2024 inductee into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, the great Angelo Cataldi, back on the big show next week. Can't wait to talk to Angelo again.
That will be fun. He's had some good opinions since he became retired, and it'll be good to get them out too.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chet, WrestleMania came to Philly, and it appeared to be a real spectacle. Sellouts every night, major TV exposure, big weekend. Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, we mentioned earlier, they showed up too. Looked like a fun time.
Yeah, Robert Moser wanted to ask about that very thing. It sure did look like a good time. I got to be honest, I didn't watch any of it. I was a big wrestling fan of the 70s and maybe early 80s, but not so much since. But, man, WrestleMania 40 was a huge event, not only for the people of Philadelphia, but for Peacock, the second biggest viewership weekend for Peacock ever, behind only the weekend in January when they had that wild card game and things associated with that on there. So, yeah, that was quite a weekend for them. And regarding Kelsey and Lane Johnson, we got a picture. There you go. Look at, Kelsey's going to be there and have a great time. And Lane Johnson's just looking like, there's Kelsey again. So I'm sure that was great for everybody in attendance, especially Eagles fans.
I can see you. One of the Furman boys was there for Saturday night and Sunday night. Another one was watching intently and texting the one that was there. I watched it for about 3 minutes and said, what in the world am I doing? I'm going to go to bed. So it didn't do much for me. I did see the part with Kelsey and Johnson, as it turns out. Good. And Chet, it's funny when you look at that. I saw a picture, and I meant to send this to you to put up, and then it slipped my mind, of Kelsey with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. Mm-hmm. And they talk about Kelsey being an undersized center and this and that. He's bigger than Rock. And,
wow.
And, Rock looks like he's a man-child. Kelsey's bigger. And Lane was bigger than everybody. He was bigger than every wrestler out there. So that was really kind of cool, I thought, too.
Yeah, I'm glad it went well. The weather held off because the weather was kind of crappy, earlier in the week. And then the weather got a little better. Still cool, but no rain at least. So that was good. And, they really packed them in. All the events Thursday through Sunday. A good event for Philadelphia and a big success, obviously, for Peacock. I think they said the ratings were up 26 to 30% over last year's event. So good for them. Yeah,
I saw 210,000 as an attendance. I don't know if what all that included, but there were 210,000 paid customers between at least the Saturday, Sunday, and then the Friday night that they had at the Wells Fargo. And I think they had another event on.
Some kind of expo thing. Too.
Yeah. But 210,000, nice showing. And Philly looked like they had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I go back to the Bruno Sammartino and Gorilla Monsoon days, because I'm old.
Right. Well, hey, speaking of having fun, college basketball came to an end with South Carolina and Dawn Staley taking the women's title over Caitlin Clark in Iowa, and UConn rolled over Purdue in the men's final. Chet, the women's game broke TV numbers with what do we have? 18.9 million people watched the women's final. 14.8 million watched the men's final. What a coup for women's basketball. I don't even know how to explain it.
First time ever that they've beaten them, and the highest rated basketball game of any kind in 5 years, if you can believe that. Yeah. Now, they benefited from the fact that it was on both ABC and ESPN, whereas the men's game was on TBS or Turner, one of those. I always get those two mixed up. And so a little bit smaller reach, I guess. But then you have the whole fact that you had South Carolina trying for an unbeaten season, and you had Caitlin Clark, of course, going for a title, and everybody wanted to watch Caitlin Clark. So, yeah, I set some time aside. I got back from that event in Villanova in time to watch the latter part of the basketball game, and it was great. You know, Caitlin came up short, but hey, we're all happy for Dawn Staley, and I really liked her remarks. I mean, she made sure to mention in every interview Caitlin Clark and what she has done for the sport. And it's great to see the women getting the attention because they deserve it.
Well, they're good. I mean, they got attention because they were really good. And, you know, I think the numbers were somewhere along the line of her last 3 games were like 11 million, 14 million, and almost 19 million viewers. And they were tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark. And, you know, she has done more for women's college basketball, maybe women's sports, than anyone. And good for her. Good for her and good for the women. It's I think it's a great thing.
Now, I can't speak on this because I don't watch the women's game enough, but now there's a debate of, you know, is she the greatest women's player of all time? And can she be if she didn't win a title? Because you had, you know, Diana Taurasi of UConn, Breanna Stewart of UConn, who had 3 and 4 titles respectively. Cheryl Miller from USC won a couple of titles. Candace Parker, Shamika Holdsclaw, they won 2 and 3 titles respectively. Holdsclaw, the 1990s Player of the Decade. Can you put Clark in there, the conversation, as a GOAT if she didn't win one single title?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, if you watched her play, you knew she's
like Dan Marino.
She was on another planet. I mean, she was that good, and she wasn't just a scorer. She was an assist leader. She got rebounds. She was a player. And I think, you know, not that anybody can go out and score 30 points every night, but she did far more than score points. And, she's absolutely up there in the conversation. No doubt.
She's definitely up there. I just don't know if you can say she's the GOAT if she didn't win a title, where the other great women all won 2 or 3 or 4 titles. So I don't know.
It's all about your surroundings. I think some of those people you just mentioned were actually teammates on each other's teams.
Yeah, like UConn always had a great team. So
right. So you say anybody that wants to take anything away from what she did, they're just trying to hate. They're just trying to find something to complain about.
Last 2 things from me, Bill. It's not a random chat. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. This past Sunday night, after 12 seasons over the span of 24 years, Curb Your Enthusiasm came to an end. I want to know, how many episodes of Curb did you watch over the years, Bill?
Let's go with 0.
I had a hunch.
Let's go with 0.
One of my top 5.
I don't even know who's in it.
Oh, my God. Larry David, the guy who created Seinfeld, okay?
Well, he died, didn't he? He's the bald-headed, curly-haired guy.
Yeah, did not die.
Oh,
Richard Lewis, Richard Lewis, who was on the show and was even in the final episode here, who died about a month ago. Yeah, he died. He was a close friend of Larry David. So
there you go.
It was a fun final episode. I loved Curb. I'm going to miss it. Don't talk anymore about it because you never watched it.
Nope.
Last thing, next Tuesday, April 16th, Wawa celebrating its 60th anniversary. Free coffee for everybody. Happy 60th, Wawa.
Oh, no kidding. How about that? And you know, the very first Wawa is right on McDade Boulevard in Delco.
I recall, yeah.
Yeah, how about that? Hey, and I have a Wawa around the corner here in Lakeland too. So
I know they're big in Florida, which is great.
Yeah, maybe I'll go get some free coffee
next Tuesday. You got it.
Next Tuesday.
Wrap it up, Bill.
All right, let's do it. Let's thank tonight's special guest, Tom McGINNIS, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgates, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim, Chet, Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Pressbox Radio next Wednesday, April the 17th at 7 p.m. You see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel, and listen on Google Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans, and how about it, Chet? Let's go Sixers.
Oh, what the heck? Let's do that then.